This is Soch 408, Week 12, Cybersexuality, Group 2. Table of contents: defining cybersexuality, the development of cybersexuality, the future, effects and impacts, dangers, and references. My name is Adam Hudson, and this is defining cybersexuality. What is cybersexuality? I don't know about for any of you guys, but for me, when I first went into cybersexuality, it was kind of not what I was thinking. So it was a good thing to define it just so we are all clear on it. So first, cyber being online, anything online that could be emails, dating apps, even your avatars or anything that is a presence online. And then sexuality being orientation, identity, and action. So who you're attracted to, how you identify, and then any kind of action, and that could be non-contact action also. And then we have sexuality defined in sociological terms, and we'll take it from queer theory, and where it comes from queer theory, looking at sexuality more as on a continuum, whereas versus a binary or male versus female. So sexuality being more as thought as a continuum, not versus a binary. And how this is related to our case study is, for one, is the actions online in the study is the person that's in the study, they're saying that their actions aren't real because they're online, but those actions, are they real? Like, do they count? And then in the same way, we have relationships, marriage, how one should act when you're in a relationship, when you're married, the one person towards the other person on each end of in the relationship. And then I have here time and space. So in our study, the person in the study, he creates fake accounts, and therefore it goes back to it isn't real or actions. And that's where it gets complicated, and that's why I put in the time and the space, because in certain times and in certain places we act in a certain way that shows we're in a relationship, that we're in marriage, and that there's another person. And it's the same thing online. One person is on one side and the other person on the other side, and the actions that are being taken online are beginning to get blurred because this is relatively new. Cybersexuality is relatively new. So, and then I have a funny video here if you want to click on it now and take a look.
Hi, thank God you guys came as soon as we could.
Okay, so I got 2 phones. I've been texting with 8 different people, and I'm losing track. Okay, there's one guy we're just...
Hi, thank God you guys came as soon as we could.
Okay, so I got 2 phones. I've been texting with 8 different people, and I'm losing track. Okay, there's one guy we're just communicating via Family Guy quotes, and how does this thing Stewie said?
Slow down.
We can handle this.
Okay. What's that? Okay. Oh, but
Rachel, welcome to the command center.
So I'm going to handle the deep thinking guys that are looking for something intellectual.
I'm going to handle all the jokey guys who don't want to come off too serious.
okay. What should I do?
You should handle the guys that immediately send pictures of their dicks or are just here for sex.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, and this is Trevor. Super great to meet you.
Hey.
Due to the heavy text volume, Trevor has your phone hooked up to a machine so he can patch us into our own group of guys.
I'd like to help out. And don't worry, I won't look at the content, just the name.
Oh, you can look at the content. I mean, there's nothing to hide.
Okay. Cool, I'd love to
Look,
Oh. Okay, yeah.
let's get to work. We are patched in. All lines are open.
Gross. Send. Gross. Send.
Oh, come on. You know I wasn't being serious. Sometimes it's hard to say things over text, but you know exactly what I mean. Send.
Oh. No.
Ooh, that sounds interesting. Oh, you're very interesting.
Gross. Send.
Yes, I do believe in true love.
That's your finger. Send. Trevor, dick pics go to Rachel, not me.
Hey. Hope this isn't too weird, but I'd love to take you out sometime. That is, if you're interested.
Yeah. Do you have an online profile?
I don't.
Oh, but then how would I find you or get to know you?
Rachel, hand me the stat. Oh, stats on breath.
What?
Fred, here's the
Rachel,
graph.
someone says they already know you.
Oh, God.
They've dated you before. What does that
Why
mean?
are they asking me? We've
Why are
dated
you
before,
asking?
I already
If you
rejected them.
LOL.
LOL. Send.
Sure,
I'm
that's a
Fred.
non-threatening fetish. Gross.
Got a date. Dinner at the Slide-In tomorrow night.
Which guy?
I don't know. David, Peter, can't tell which.
Is it me?
No. Is it me? Why would it be you, buddy?
Sorry, Trevor.
The first recorded instance of sex with a computer, if it can be labeled as such, dates back to 1981 with the software titled Soft Porn Adventure. This was a text-based adventure game that had the player control a man at various locations attempting to seduce 3 women without triggering the conditions for failure, and thus a game over. Prior to this, machine interface sexual content was based on the voice. CB radios allowed users to connect via voice, and the telephone did as well, although for a long time the operator was listening. And fax-based sex was never off the table. Thus, until Soft Porn Adventure was released for the Apple II, no one was having digital sex at all, let alone with other humans. While this software itself does not necessarily constitute cybersex, as we now use the term, it was indeed the very first commercially available software designed to titillate the user thusly. Similar pornographic games, including soft porn's spiritual successor, titled Leisure Suit Larry, have continued to evolve and incorporate the latest advances in digital technology since the 1980s, but their path is divergent to that of their more social successor, cybersex. When the internet was made public in 1983, it was a niche place to be. And it is in these veritable Wild West days of the internet where the first true instances of cybersex were beginning to occur. These interactions were taking place in the forums and chat rooms, called then chat lines, that dominated the social space of the early internet in the days before social media had drawn our collective attention away from the fringes of internet culture. People could be whoever they wanted to be, to an audience of others doing the same from all over the world, for the first time ever. Naturally, these personas desired to have sexual encounters, and sexual encounters they had. Like their more analog predecessors, most of the cybersex happening during the 1980s was largely text-based, since videos and other forms of media used far too many bytes for the networks of the time. Things held up this way until about 1990 or 1991, and it is around this time that Howard Rheingold first coined the terms cybersex, sex tech, and teledildonics. Yes, you heard me correctly. He coined these terms in his book, Virtual Reality, so we can safely say that by 1991, cybersex had become a full-on social phenomenon, evolving organically to fit the technology and picking up traction in the cyber realm, and beginning in 1992, when the first ever text message was sent on our more portable devices as well. With the advent of faster cables, routers, and therefore faster ways of relaying bytes of information, came desires for new ways to interact with the digital world of the internet. Enter the webcam, a device capable of bringing the image of someone from across the world to your screen instantaneously. And as naturally as the Apple II had become a format for textual adventures, the internet became a delivery system for sexual encounters with the help of these cameras. No longer were digital sexual encounters reserved only for fans of literature, but now the moviegoer could partake as well, These methods of internet sex would be the driving forces behind digital sex until at least 1994, when Gary Kramen registered Sex.com and ushered into the world the first ever dedicated pornographic website. Prior to this, certain college alumni had used FTP, or File Transfer Protocol, to exchange pornographic media with other like-minded individuals who they had to meet through digital bulletin boards. But it is believed increasing internet traffic through 1993 and the following year began to bring these FTP systems to their knees, opening the door for domains like Sex.com to become what they are today. And it is in today's world, nearly 30 years removed from the founding of Sex.com, wherein we see the convergence of more open and free cybersex combining with the more porno-corporate entities. For instance, Pornhub, one of the world's most popular pornographic sites, is now worth $1.5 billion. And while more traditional methods of cybersex are still open to anyone with the patience to seek them out, it is here in these carefully curated pornographic spaces, and with the funds curated from these spaces, that new innovations are being devised. And while virtual reality headsets and devices have not yet revolutionized the scene in the same way that webcams might have in the 1990s, or the text message did at the same time, they have already been experimented with in a variety of ways, including the interesting apparatus you see now on the screen. Thus, the two divergent paths of gaming and cybersex have converged once again in the form of virtual reality chat rooms and forums. A new way of doing the same things we have always done.
When it comes to the future of cybersexuality, this is something that has grown a lot over the years and will continue to grow. Cybersexuality is being exposed to more and more young people because they do have access to technology and to the internet. It has been found that exposure to explicit things online starts as young as 8 years old. Within the teenage population, many are exposed to cybersex, and this creates pressure into being sexually active because this is what they are seeing on the internet. Cybersexuality puts this idea that you should be sexually active because that is what's normal. Pornography is something that has grown exceptionally. Sex work is becoming more normal. An example of this is OnlyFans, which is a site where people can upload their own sexual content and get paid for it when people subscribe to their page. Technology is the backbone of cybersexuality. Cybersex can be addicting for the fact that it can be viewed whenever. Virtual reality is something that has been seen a lot in the gaming industry, and some of you may even have one at home. Virtual reality gives people the feeling that they are really in the game they are playing. Sex tech companies are wanting to use virtual reality to give people this same feeling and take the cybersex world to a new level. It is important to note that as technology evolves, so will cybersexuality.
The effects and impacts of cybersexuality as it pertains to society are fairly positive, and when you look at individual cases, you see more negative. Irving Goffman's presentation of self is a great example of how people can present something different than what they are in real life. They can have multiple identities, and on online environments they can change who they are. They can explore more sexual ideas that they're interested in without the idea that society will deem them inappropriate or weird, awkward, or anything like that. So this is also a great therapeutic release for many people that miss out on chances and don't have the confidence in real life to attain those sexual desires and fantasies. Another great effect of massive amounts of cyber sex coming through, the internet and our telephones, all kinds of mobile devices, is law reform and the expanded definitions of sexual assault. So we wouldn't really have that without the prevalence of cyber sex in our world. We are able now to deem things such as sharing photographs of ex-partners as a law that can protect somebody. And also we have women and men and non-binary folks as well, people in general that engage in sex work online, and such as the OnlyFans lawsuit that was going on over the last couple years. You find people being almost blackmailed and bribed into certain platforms, and we're seeing more and more agency for sex workers, which can certainly extend into a physical realm as well. Another interesting impact in my perspective is the view of power and sexuality, as Michel Foucault explained in the early 19th century, how many people suggested that we didn't speak about it. However, people were thinking about it and talking about it all the time. It's more so what they're not talking about that lends this power to the things that people are afraid of or will deem as socially acceptable or normal. So these key shifts in societal views of sexuality allow for the broad discussions for a more holistic view. And that power is obviously in contrast with the kind of cultural dominant group suggesting what is appropriate and what is allowable. So while there are definitely some key issues in cybersex and engaging in those practices and cultivating a cybersexuality in general, there's still some great impacts socially that we can attribute to having this capability.
So I'm going to be talking about the dangers of cybersexuality. So when people engage in cybersexuality, a lot of the times what happens is that a sex addiction or a sex compulsion is created, which poses a lot of psychological risks, and it harms the boundaries that people have in real life. It also damages offline intimate relationships. Cyber relationships often leave people feeling unfulfilled, which means they feel unfulfilled in real life. It's seen as a barrier to quote unquote real intimacy. So real life intimacy is halted almost because they're using the internet for their intimacy. It also may be seen as like betrayal or cheating by people's partners, because cybersexuality kind of doesn't feel quote unquote real to people. They just get caught up in it. The internet is also used to solicit offline sexual encounters. So you meet somebody on the internet and then you set up a time to meet them in real life and to get together and to have sex. The problem with this is a lot of times people aren't actually who they say they are on the internet, and you don't know their intentions. For example, some child molesters use the internet to set up meetings with minors in real life. And along with this, online sexual harassment is really prevalent, and unwanted sex solicitation. The problem with this is there's a lot of children and teen involvement in this, and it's illegal. But a lot of adults are using this to kind of have access to teens and children. Sexual crimes against minors are super prevalent through the internet, especially by people's family or acquaintances, because it is like something to hide behind. And then finally, it's like a creation of negative and inaccurate sexual expectations and bad role models for both young adults and actual adults, because a lot of the times things you see in porn or things that people write about aren't very accurate to what actually happens in real sexual encounters.
you.